Very good afternoon, friends. And I am Nidhi Singh, Secretary of Center for Audit Quality Directorate. Welcome you all to this 25th Quality Cafe session, which is a sequel of our earlier session on certificates to be issued by Chartered Accountants. And we have with us convener of CAQ, CA Pramod Jain sir, Deputy Convener CA Vishal Doshi sir, and panelists CA Praveen Kumar ji and Ma'am Padam Shri Cresto, and moderator. The session will be moderated by CA Chintan Shah sir. So I would now request Pramod sir to welcome our panelists and the moderator.
Thank you very much, Nidhi ji. Namaste to all. Namaste to all. I welcome I along with my co-convener, deputy convener, जो भी आप कहें मेरे convener, CA Vishal Doshi ji, who is also friends, the vice chairman of the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, chairman of the Financial Reporting Review Board, and also member of the International Auditing Standards Board, overseas UK. So his passion is all auditing. So his passion and drive for enhancing the audit quality in India is foreseen, which we have seen over the past more than a couple of years, more than 4 years now. This, I would say, a quick recap if I talk about, because this is a sequel. So in recap, I would say last session which we had on certificates, we had the same panelists, CA Praveen Kumar ji, who is a senior partner, audit partner in one of very big firms based out of Delhi, and of course CA Padma Shri Castro, again heading one of the very important audit division of a bigger firm. And to moderate these two stalwarts, we have another stalwart, CA Chintan Shah ji, again from the financial capital of the country. Welcome all the three panelists and our Vishal Bhai and Nidhi ma'am. Friends, if I talk about certificates, which play a very, very important role, if I talk about assurance in my view, personal view, I would say it contains two limbs, I would say. One is audit and second is certification. Now, audits can again, and other assurance like reviews and so many other our standards which we have got, review and others, it could be there. But certification is a very, very important part of assurance. Because again, that credibility of chartered accountants is there because of all of our assurance functions, and certification also, that's why, because of our knowledge, because of our curriculum and credibility which we have given over the years, our credibility of the certificates which we issue is very, very important. Whether you go for any banker, whether you go for any tender, whether you go to any regulator, the certification which they want is from a chartered accountant. Because they know that our disciplinary proceedings mechanism is also very, very robust, and members at large do a fantastic job even in the certification. Certain points which we had discussed in our last webinar also, that yes, it cannot be just as on a simple paper or the data which we have signatures and UDIN. It has to be a proper report for which we have got our own guidance note, the 2016 revised guidance note. All those would be discussed. And today what we will be discussing about is the questions which were asked by various querists during the last session. So that would be taken upon. Before I again hand over back to Nidhi to hand it over to the moderator, I'll request Vishal Bhai to please share his initial views. That would be very important for all participants. Vishal Bhai, please.
Thank you very much, Pramod Bhai, the convener of the CAQD, and my guru, I would say, in all these initiatives that we are taking at the Center for Audit Quality Directorate. Well, friends, as Pramod Bhai mentioned, that we do have esteemed panelists, Praveen Kumar ji and Padma Shri ji, and also a very good friend, I would say, and professional moderator, Chintan Bhai, In fact, I've just known that Padma Shri, for her, this is a very important event because this is her 100th lecture since she started 5 years back. So compliments, Padma Shri, to you, and we wish you carry on this good work of sharing and spreading knowledge amongst the fraternity. Coming to the subject of certificates, yes, friends, it's definitely something very important for us as practitioners, as well as it's something which is very open-ended. Because when we meet, interact with members across the region, across the country, there are a lot of these questions that we receive, or where members are a bit confused, or there might be unintentionally doing some errors with respect to the issuance of certificates, and sometimes they might not be aware of the type of certificates, whether they can be issued, what exactly can be the wordings, and that gave us this idea that at the Center for Audit Quality Directorate, as the name resonates, it's audit quality. And these quality cafe sessions that we should have this webinar, which we had on 3rd of June. That was the first part, and looking into the response and the queries that we had received during the course of the webinar, we thought it apt that we should not leave it just at that and try to solve all the questions that have come, because they were actual questions at the ground level which members are facing as challenges, as difficulties, or where they need to be empowered. And let me tell you, we've, like Pramod bhai mentioned, we have received a large number of questions, which we have all combined, I would say, compiled and combined, so that we are able to respond to all of them today. And but this is not the end. I would still say that if you still have questions, please do post to them. And looking into the nature of the questions, and whether they are unique and not answered till yet, we would be more than happy, maybe after some time, to come up with another session. And I, on behalf of Pramod bhai, Nidhi madam, and the CAQD, ensure that we would keep on having these webinars on certificates till each and every question or doubt of our members is resolved. So once again, I welcome you all to this sequel on the webinar on certificates. Thank you very much. Thanks to the moderator and the panelists for sparing time again after a month to share their knowledge and respond to the questions. Thank you very much. Over to you, Nidhi madam.
Thank you, sir. So,
Nidhi ma'am, just to add one point on Vishal bhai.
Yeah.
This our CAQT is also in the process of developing. Vishal bhai is leading that project. Checklist for the certificates. So maybe soon we will be coming out, as Vishal bhai said, that another one of the webinars will be discussing a lot about those checklists, that how that can be useful, and the formats. So maybe just for members at large, that yes, as Vishal bhai said, we'll be coming out soon as we finalize all those things. Over back to Nidhi.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and now giving a brief introduction of our panelist and the moderator. To start with, CA Padamshri Presto. She represents a large-sized firm. She has over 21 years of extensive experience in practicing audit services across industry verticals of insurance, financial services, and manufacturing. She is also responsible for the quality assurance function in the audit and assurance services, which include review of deliverables, conduct of online review and cold review of audit files, and thereby managing firm risk. She is awarded the Star Women of WIRC by WIRC in 2024. CA Praveen Kumarji is a senior partner and national head of assurance division of ASA. He has over 32 years of post-qualification experience, a commerce graduate, holds diploma in information systems audit, besides certification in IFRS from UK. Earlier, a member of NACAS, Accounting Standard Board, AASB, and Expert Advisory Committee, besides various research groups and committees of ICAI. He has an experience of working on large number of statutory and internal audits, forensic, fraud, investigation, and IFRS transition. Sir is a speaker at national and international forums on his subject of expertise, faculty with reputed institutes like IMT, ICAI, ICSI, MCA, etc. His books have been published by CCH and written many. He has written many papers and articles for renowned journals and magazines. He has been invited to present paper by reputed institutions in Japan, Nepal, Dubai, Singapore, besides various large companies and branches of ICI across the country. Our moderator, C.A. Chintan Shah, he qualified as CA in 1999 and is a ranker in the CA exams. He completed MBF, the post-qualification certification with rank. He is also a law graduate and he is a managing partner of Chokmal and Co. He has an experience of over 25 years and a specialization in providing audit and assurance services to Indian and multinational companies. He has undertaken various statutory audit of manufacturing companies. He is ex-vice chairman of Taxation Committee of Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. He was professional lecturer in college and visiting faculty at management schools. Past convener of JP Nagar CP Study Circle and member of Audit and Assurance Standard Committee of WIRC of ICI for the years 23-24 and 24-25. He has also been a speaker at various seminars of WIRC and study circles. Now I would request Chintan sir to start the session.
Thank you, Nidhi ma'am, and welcome all the members to this sequel. As you know, nowadays all the movies are having sequel. We are having a study cafe sequel. Thanks to Pramod sir and Vishal sir that we are having this due to the members' demand. So as we go, sir, first question we put it to the senior member Praveen sir. Then, sir, as SA 501 is about all evidences, how would evidence be relevant and important in a certification which is being issued by a chartered accountant? Can you please throw some light in connection with the essays on 501?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chintan bhai. I'm really grateful to Pramod ji and Vishal ji for giving another opportunity. This is something which is very, very useful for all the professional brothers and sisters. So, before we begin our session, the disclaimer, this is very important. Whatever we are going to share with all of you, both Madam Padam Shri and myself, these are our personal views. It is recommended and it is advised that if you have to take a professional call or if you want to really apply, in these things in your, daily life or in your actual professional work, it is strongly recommended that you look into the literature yourself, because whatever thoughts we are sharing, these are our personal views, and you should rely on the literature, official literature, which has been issued by the institute. As far as this matter is concerned, there's a guidance note on certification, like Pramodji also mentioned. This was revised in 2016. And this guidance note on reports or certificates for special purpose. This is the exact name, and it was revised in 2016. So we'll try to answer your questions based on this guidance note. Then there are standards on auditing, because the questions which were asked, they were in direction of some of the auditing standards also. Like the first question also, Chintan Bhai has asked. So before coming to the question, I would like to read from the introduction, para number 1. It said that the purpose of this guidance note is to provide guidance on engagement which requires a professional accountant in public practice to issue reports other than those which are issued in audits or reviews of historical financial information. So basically, this guidance note is a sacrosanct. It's a main document or literature which can be relied upon or which should be referred to before you give any certificates or issue any report other than the audit reports. This is carrying illustrations or the formats of the certificates which can be issued. There are appendix 2 carries illustrative formats of those certificates. So many of the questions which we have received, many of the questions relate to the formats. So these formats are given in this guidance note, so you can always refer to these. So many times, the questions which you face in your practice as a chartered accountant, you are being asked to give certificate or certify certain statements. So this particular guidance note is a place where you should go. Now, coming to external evidence, there are various standards on auditing, like Chintan Bhai has mentioned, Series 500. So there is a standard 500, which deals with issues related to evidence. And then 505 talks about external confirmation, the importance of external confirmations. And once we look at Standard on Auditing 505, it very clearly says that the audit evidence is more reliable when it is obtained from an independent source outside the entity. I'm reading from paragraph 2. Audit evidence obtained directly by the auditor is more reliable than audit evidence obtained indirectly or by inference. Third bullet point, the audit evidence is more reliable when it exists in documentary form, whether paper, electronic, or other medium. So this Standard on Auditing 505 very clearly says that there are various levels of reliance on the evidences. So documentary evidence is much better than the verbal evidence. Then if auditor is directly taking an evidence, that's much more reliable. And if it is being taken from the third party or an independent source outside the entity, that is still better. And then standard on SA 330, it requires that the auditor obtain more persuasive evidence, which is higher if there is a higher risk, in the paper which you are signing. Then another standard on auditing 240 indicates that the auditor may require or may design the confirmation request in such a manner which will give the information and it is addressed in a particular manner. Then SA 500 indicates that corroborating information obtained from a source independent of entity, such as external confirmation, may increase the assurance the auditor obtains from the evidence. So why do we need an evidence? So suppose you are writing on a piece of paper or you are giving a certificate or you are giving a report. Why have you written? Why have you given that kind of report, that kind of opinion? In order to prove if somebody is asking for it, even if it is for your own comfort, the auditors need to obtain evidence. For certificates, it is specifically important that you obtain your evidence which will support whatever your opinion is. Like the certificate mentioned, you can give reasonable assurance or you can give limited assurance. Whichever assurance you are giving, but you need to have an evidence. And as I had shared with you, SA 505, it is always better to have a documentary evidence. It is better to have a direct evidence and better to have outside third party confirmations or the evidence. So these are basically the level of assurances which you get when you are giving any opinion or when you are giving any certificate.
Thank you, sir. You have elaborated it very well along with the examples and cross-referencing to the guidance note and various standards on auditing. Next question would be to Padmashri ma'am. Ma'am, again, the importance of engagement letter cannot be undermined. We have a separate essay again on engagement letters, essay 210, which everybody is aware of. How would that be relevant in terms of the certifications which are to be issued by a chartered accountant?
Yeah, thanks Chintanji, and thanks to the CAQ as well as Pramod sir and Vishal Koshi sir. Glad to be here, part of the second such session on certificates. Right, you are very right, Chintanji, that engagement letter is a very crucial document. So what is engagement letter? If we go back to our, CA foundation or inter kind of a curriculum, the basic thing that we are taught about is the Contract Act 1872. So everything that we are doing is based on a business contract. It's a commercial contract. Yes, it is a professional contract in the given case. So SA 210 is the relevant standard for it, and then there is an implementation guide also, and also in CAQD there is a utility that actually helps you generate engagement letters of n number of entities at one go. So that macro file actually is built up in such a manner that you don't have to spend too much time, and it has all the relevant clauses which are necessary to be in part of the professional contract or a service contract. So when we go to provide services to any large organization or even a organization which has a good legal team, there we often actually look at these things, that the service contracts that they are making with the vendors have all these types of specific clauses which involve relevant references to the laws and regulations that one has to look into, the limitation of liability, management representation, any issues due to fraud or negligence act, willful misconduct, basically gross negligence or willful misconduct, and then force majeure. So all this, and then also the indemnity, which is very important. So we are providing professional services, which is not very different than a service contract. Yes, we have expertise in certain manner, but at the same time, when everything is rosy, it's very good and it's very cool. If something goes bad, it gets rotten to another level. Everything is picked and chosen, and that is where contracts and the engagement letters actually come into force. Even when you take a professional indemnity insurance, one of the things that you will see in the clause that you will have to fill up is that, are you entering into engagement letters for everything, all the services that you are providing? Are you limiting your liabilities? Are you providing are you actually keeping the indemnities open, or you are actually putting some indemnities taking some indemnities from the client? So these are kind of questions that you will always have, and it is necessary also. So these are not questions that are irrelevant. Actually, in the being a professional, all these questions are very much relevant over there, when it is necessary that we look into all these things. So there are two ways of getting into the engagement letter. One is where we have to issue the certificates as being statutory auditor. So there are a lot of certificates that one has to issue as a statutory auditor, because that's obligatory, decided by law or something. For example, in case of banks and all, you will have to issue certain certificates. In insurance also, you will have to issue certain certificates. But other than that, during the year, the client comes up with certain requests that I need the certificates, which we are going to discuss much more in detail. So we can include a clause in the standard engagement letter, that is the statutory audit level or the tax audit level, that we will issue certain certificates also. And then all the terms and conditions that are there in the engagement letter will be applicable. And then only with respect to individual certifications, we can issue a small mandate letter or a exchange of communication, which will say this is the fees for this certificate. All the terms and conditions that existed on my EL dated so and so will apply. That's one way of doing it. And if there are new certificates that are coming out during the year, then you can very much issue a elaborate engagement letter separately. But having an engagement letter, backing of an engagement letter for everything whatsoever that we are doing is very important, because that is the safeguard and that is actually necessary as per the standards of auditing as well.
Okay, thank you, Padmashri ma'am. Now there are bundle of questions which are related to the net worth certificate, which are being sought by the clients very often from a chartered accountant for various purposes. Could it be study loan? Could it be visas? Could it be bank loans? So, net worth certificate is something very, very common certificates which are being obtained by the clients from chartered accountant. So the questions are all in relation to that. So first to Praveen sir, is it okay to prepare on a letterhead a net worth statement for the purpose of applying for the visa for a client's son who is planning to study abroad?
Yeah, there are these are very, very common situations which come our way when we are practicing as a chartered accountant. So there are few areas which generally get, they are ignored, but this is very important. Like, Padam Shri Madam also mentioned about it. And, the guidance note on the certificates which we were talking about, the clause number 24, it says that agreeing on the terms of engagement. The practitioner should agree the terms of engagement with the engaging party. The agreed terms of the engagement should be specified in specific detail in the engagement. So that engagement letter. So I'm answering your question that is it okay to give a net worth certificate for the purpose of visa? So first of all, it is important to have that kind of engagement letter that, okay, here is my net worth, and we request you to give your assurance as a chartered accountant on this particular aspect or this paper. So first you will get an engagement signed off, which will define that this is your scope of work. Then whatever is written there, which you are certifying or on which you are giving your opinion, you need to obtain audit evidence, right? We discussed in the previous answer also SA 505, SA 500, SA 330, SA 240, all those standards along with this guidance note. They recommend that the auditor need to obtain audit evidence or the person who is signing the certificate. The word which they are using is practitioner in public practice. So practitioner or qualify or a chartered accountant with a certificate of practice, when they are giving a certificate, they need to obtain and keep a copy of that kind of audit evidence. It has to be documentary. It can be, but it can be direct. It can be from the third party. Whichever evidences are there, they need to maintain those papers. So it's not only signing on the certificate, but also collecting evidence and then forming your opinion and giving a letter on top of it, which will say that, okay, whatever are the responsibility of these people, and this is the activity which you carried out. You did whatever activities or the audit procedures you did, and this is your opinion that the statement of net worth, which is attached herewith, is giving true and fair picture or not. So that is the way you should be carrying out. You should also take representation. We will have some discussion on the representation also. So you need to treat this engagement as an independent engagement. Giving net worth certificate, please remember that people, the regulator who have asked these people to bring a CA certificate on the net worth, they want to have that assurance, and that assurance has to come from the people who are qualified chartered accountants. So we need to be very sure whatever we are signing off, whatever opinion we are giving it. So it is fine to give that kind of certificate, but you need to have engagement letter, representation letter, audit evidence, all those kind of stuff, and the format in which you will be giving that certificate.
Thank you, Praveen sir. Padmashri madam, again, related to net worth itself, in the net worth, there could be immovable properties, fixed assets. There could be shares, mutual funds. How should it be valued? Cost or market value?
Yeah, so the one is net worth certificate. Largely, if there is no definition or there is no requirement, so net worth certificate is issued for various purposes. So number one, let us take the very basic one, which is net worth certification as per the definition that is there in the Companies Act. So we have to, when nothing is mentioned, we have to go by the definition as per the Companies Act, which goes without saying. And when we do that, then again there are two situations. One is you have the audited financial statement where you have audited, or where someone else is audited. So if it is on the basis of audited financial statements and which you have audited, that's the best place where you can give a net worth certificate. And as sir mentioned already, the annexure, the calculation has to be prepared by the management, and then our certificate is actually saying that the things mentioned in annexure 1 are as per the audited financial statements, and if we have done the audit, include a statement to that effect. If not, then we have to say whoever has done that audit, we have to refer to their report, as well as if it is qualified, we have to say that it is qualified. Now, coming to audited financial statement and coming to the net worth definition of Companies Act, there is nothing new that we have to do over here, that we have to revalue the fixed asset or the immovable property for the purposes of certification per se. It is straight away saying that we have picked up the figures from the financial statements, and then these are the figures that are there, and we are certifying the net worth as on so and so date, and along with the as per the Companies Act. Now, if there are any specific definitions which are given by the loan covenant or any other document which says that net worth has to be calculated in accordance with this formula, even there we are picking up the figures directly from the financial statements. In this case, we don't have to revalue or change the accounting policy over here. We are picking up the financial figures from the financial statements. So I think revaluing, or if the financial statements are prepared on a historical basis, we are going to pick that up. If the financial statements are on realizable basis, then we have to pick that up. There is no special revaluation that we have to do for the purpose of certification. If we are doing that, then I think it's no more a certification work, but it is more of a valuation work that we are doing. So accordingly, the elaborate procedures, standards, the assumptions and all that you have to apply on that actually comes into picture. There are times when clients will suggest us to say that if you pick it up as per my balance sheet, maybe it is not giving a good picture. Why don't you actually take it at market value? Why don't you take one at market value, one at cost value? Do a mixed combination of these things. So I think our duty is not to get influenced by these things, but go by the standard, which is largely by like whatever is there as per the books of account as per section 129 of the Companies Act.
Thank you, Padmashri. Ma'am, I would just like to maybe correct the question a little bit.
Would like to just come in, Padmashri.
Yeah.
What about many times it is an individual who would require a net worth certificate?
Yeah.
Then whether and specifically like it was asked in the previous question for visa purposes and all, where they would like to establish the net worth of an individual. In that case, whether the market value of immovable properties and all can be considered.
There, I think if we are taking the immovable property or something in case of an individual, we have to be overcautious. It's advisable not to get into those because they are most, more contingent or speculative in nature. Go by the cost value and go by the documents that we have. But if at all someone wants to take that stand, it has to be very clearly disclosed on the basis of what those things are being taken. But my personal view, largely advisable, stick to it and then don't go to the things. And if you're taking it, then go by the Stamp Duty Act or something. Have a good basis for it and disclose everything that you are doing. And it will be very difficult to substantiate later. But I think based on my understanding, it is largely be on the conservative side in these kind of cases.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just want to add here, and I think Chintan bhai, your question was also in that direction only. There is a very specific guidance on this particular aspect in paragraph 58 of the guidance note, where you are in these certificates, if there is something which is related to immovable property or those kind of stuff and you want to have a certificate from, let's say, an architect or somebody who is expert in that area. So if we are giving our opinion or a certificate, one thing which needs to be very clearly understood is auditor is responsible for the opinion which they are giving. So that means whether you rely on the work of expert or you go and do that work yourself, it's your problem. If you are giving a certificate, if you are giving an opinion, auditor is solely responsible for the opinion which they are giving. So how do I get a comfort on, the value of the property or whether an architect certificate has been given? So the guidance note says that when the work of a practitioner's expert is to be used, the practitioner should also, practitioner means you people, the qualified CAs, those who are giving certificate, what they should do, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, evaluate whether the expert has a necessary competence, capability, and objectivity for the for your purpose. In the case of external expert, the evaluation of objectivity should include the inquiry regarding interest and relationships that may create a threat to the objectivity. And I'll explain it with the help of example also. But let's look at all the 4 parts which the guidance note has given. Second is to obtain sufficient understanding of the fields of expertise of this expert. Who is this expert? And in the areas where you are relying on the work of an expert, you need to ensure that the what is the understanding, what is the field in which this person is working. Third, agree with the expert on the nature, scope, and objectives of the expert's work. And fourth is evaluate the adequacy of expert work for your own purpose, for practitioner purpose. So that means if there is an amount which has been mentioned about a property or something, and the client of yours is giving you a certificate of an architect or somebody, which is certifying that, okay, this is the value of property. When you are relying on that work, you need to carry out procedures to get an understanding whether this expert is capable of giving this kind of certificate, whether the objectivity is compromised or not compromised. So if, let's say, a client approached to you, and this is an example, it's very basic example, but it can explain. So if some client comes to you that, okay, I am preparing a certificate of my net worth in which there is a property and this house is valued at this amount, and you say that where from this amount has come. So you say that, okay, I have attached a certificate of an expert and he is an architect, qualified architect and all. And when you inquire, you come to know that, oh, this person is the brother of this client. So its objectivity is compromised, right? So he would write whatever this person will be asking. So you need to ensure that whatever the papers, or if you are relying on the work of an expert in the areas in which you are not expert, you are giving a certificate. So ultimately, the responsibility is on the auditors only. So this is also, there is a standard on auditing, SA 620, which talks about, relying on the work of expert. So in case of, so many times you give certificate based on work which have been done by expert, maybe architects, maybe engineers, maybe actuarials. So you need to ensure that the person is capable, objectivity is maintained, and all those 4 points which have been mentioned in the certificate. So this is very critical. I mean, the responsibility is yours because you are giving an opinion or certifying something.
Thank you, Praveen sir. You have, I think, already answered the next question which was there. I will just add a little bit in that. In terms of immovable property, can the CA rely on the government stamp duty valuation instead of an architect valuation? How would be your opinion on that?
Whichever way, I mean, you want to rely on this, it's fine. You may not want to rely on it, fine. Ultimately, whatever you will write, responsibility is yours. You can take both, and then you can say that, okay, I'll go with the conservative thing, whichever way you want to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Padmashri ma'am, next question would be to you. Whether we can issue a net worth certificate which is issued on the basis of a provisional balance sheet, mentioning in the certificate that this being issued on a basis of provisional balance sheet, which is signed by the promoter, director, partner, whoever it could be, and we mention that the accounts are unaudited. Can we do such things?
Yeah, so I'll take a step back to just look at the type of certificate one can issue, the practitioner can issue. When we talked about we are the auditor and we are not the auditor. So when we are the auditor, we will call the certificate as auditor's report, independent auditor's report, and when we are not the auditor, then we will call it as a practitioner's report, independent practitioner's report. Right? That is the basic distinction that everyone has to bear in mind. And I think Praveen sir also mentioned the practitioner's responsibility versus auditor's responsibility. Ultimately, you use the work of anyone or you do it yourself, you are the one who is going to be responsible for it. Again, considering that we are the auditor or otherwise, there are a number of instances where people want this net worth certificate for the purpose of tender, for the purpose of submission to the bank, for the purpose of a new line of credit. Net worth certificate is something that is actually very, very common or very much asked for every now and then. So there may be a case that it is not possible all the time to issue only on the basis of audited financial statements, though that is the best way to do it, but then it is not always possible. So it may be on the basis of it's not a provisional. So there is a difference between a provisional balance sheet and there is a difference between and there is a estimated balance sheet. So here what I'm trying to say is that the provisional balance sheet is not the estimated balance sheet. It's the management prepared financial statements. If it is a management prepared financial statements which is unaudited. So I take this provisional balance sheet as management prepared financial statements to be more, better to understand. And that is like unaudited financial statements. So it is actually extract of books of account as on certain date. Then we can issue this net worth certificate, but we have to very clearly mention that this is on the basis of unaudited financial statements, and this is the basis of calculation has to be put out there, and anything that is actually as on that day, which is an assumption which affects the net worth, has to be pulled out very clearly. And there is we spoke about two types of certificate issued by me or issued by someone, and second thing is the reasonable assurance certificate and the limited assurance certificate. So in this case, in the given case, because we are not doing the entire audit of that before issuing the certificate and we are doing very limited procedures, I think it would be more suitable to issue a limited assurance certificate. So limited assurance certificate is a negative assurance basically. So wherein we have to be very careful in not issuing a very reasonable assurance certificate because we will not be able to do the elaborate procedures over here. So that is again very important to distinguish between the provisional as well as the estimated balance sheet. If we are talking about estimated balance sheet, I think that's a completely different discussion altogether. Here it's management basis financial statements as on a specific day, maybe a half year for the purpose of some line of credit or for the purpose of tender or something. There we will have to bring out that disclosure very clearly, both in the annexure as well as in the certificate, that these figures are unaudited, and also state those assumptions that are necessary to be put out over there. If we look at all the illustrations that are there in the guidance note, so there are illustrations about audit, like this certificate being prepared on the basis of audited certificate. And then in the footnotes that one or two places, you will very specifically find that, the limited, in case it is not audited, then it has to be a limited assurance certificate. So I think drawing references from this, we can say that it can be issued, but with a proper and elaborate disclosure, very specifically.
Thank you for throwing light on this. The next question, Praveen sir.
No, just one point I might have heard otherwise. The person who is issuing a certificate, I'm talking from that point of view, whether the auditor is issuing or other than the auditor is issuing. Is there any difference in the title?
Sir, there are how do we put it is that the risk parameter varies, because if I am the auditor, I know the internal control of
No, I'm just talking about the title of the certificate.
Yeah. In the title of the certificate, if I am the auditor, then it says that independent auditor certificate, and if I am not the auditor, it says independent practitioner certificate.
I have a bit different view. Because I may be appointed as an auditor in a company through the AGM, but that is only for the statutory audit. Apart from that, I may be holding that office, but only as per the Companies Act. So any other service that I do, that is not as an auditor. I may be engaged for issuing a certificate through a board resolution because that is mandatory. But then I will be doing not that as an auditor. So my all certificates, they cannot be as an independent auditors. It has to be independent practitioner certificate. Vishal Bhai has a different view. Okay.
No. It's not a third view. In fact, let me first. So, Pramod Bhai, there are many certificates which are prescribed to be given by the auditors.
Yes.
So that is where I believe that it would be the independent auditor certificate, because no other practitioner other than the auditor, as per that particular certificate or as per the law, can give other than the auditor.
It is so Vishal Bhai, if it is only under any regulation.
Yes.
Suppose a banker in his sanction letter says to be given by the statutory auditor, then I know a point of discussion whether then it would be an auditor certificate. Open discussion.
So exactly. So my view is that only where it is prescribed that only the certificate can be given only by the auditor. That is where this title would come, because that is pursuant to the appointment in the AGM as an auditor that I am entitled to also give that certificate.
Thank you for your expert views, the convener and the deputy convener.
I think the audience is also very clear that this is not an easy topic that we are deliberating on.
Yes. We should discuss very openly. Whatever is fine, that should come out very fine.
Yes,
definitely. So, Praveen sir, now summarizing about the net worth, any other precautions which should be taken care of while issuing a net worth certificate in particular?
So, I think the way we are discussing is it's not easy to, every word will have, an impact, whether you write independent auditor or not. Also in the language, Madam Padam Shri has mentioned about reasonable assurance, limited assurance. And while we were discussing, a flashed message came that what is reasonable assurance, what is limited assurance. So, if you open the guidance note and you look at paragraph 4, it mentions that a practitioner is expected to provide either a reasonable assurance, which means in the bracket, about whether the subject matter, of examination is materially misstated. Whether it is misstatement is there or not, that's a reasonable assurance. And limited assurance is stating that nothing has come to the attention which causes, the practitioner to believe that subject matter is. So one is whether the misstatement is there, or second is, which is limited assurance, nothing has come to my notice which will say that it is materially misstated. So there are very small, minute, but very, very relevant differences in the wordings which we are using. So the standard also say that you should always try to give reasonable assurance or a limited assurance. Complete assurance is a very, very highly difficult thing that absolutely whatever I'm saying is true and correct. That is very, very difficult to say, because then you have to go to the completeness and every other aspect. You have to be very, very sure that nothing is left out and nothing is wrong. But precautions, when we talk about precautions which needs to be taken, so you have to read all the auditing standards. You need to know that SA 500 talks to you about collecting audit evidence. 505, we spoke about that evidence, the level of comfort which you get as auditor or as a practitioner, external or documentary or independent, whatever evidence you are collecting. Then SA 620 says that if you are relying on work of expert, what guidance can be given. SA 240 says, that confirmation should be designed in a particular manner. Then SA 210 says that you need to agree on the terms of engagement. And we just read from the guidance note also that engagement should be clearly defining the scope and whatever the limitation of scope. And then your management representation letter should be taken. So these are the generic but very, very important points which need to be kept in mind when you are issuing a certificate. Of course, the whole session, rather the sequel of the session is to which are the areas to be taken care of while issuing the certificate.
Yes, sir. Just one thing to add in what you mentioned, the true and correct versus the true and fair, which was actually some few years ago before this guidance note came into picture. Largely certificates were supposed to be, or every other regulatory organization used to ask for true and correct from the auditors. I think now this guidance note has given us two options of reasonable as well as limited, which you clearly explained in terms of true and fair versus the negative assurance. So that helps in a way, and that's why, from the risk point of view, from the risk, mitigation perspective, from a firm level perspective, I think that is seen as a better way of doing it as compared to giving everything as true and correct, because true and correct is near to impossible to achieve.
Yeah. And Pramod bhai, you will agree that, in the small and medium practicing firms or smaller units of our practitioners, a lot of time regulators or so many people, they approach them that discuss certificate, we need this certificate, we need that certificate. The bankers approach the CAs that, the banker tell the borrowers who have taken cash credit limit that please get your stock statement signed from a CA. We discussed it in the previous session also, but this is a big challenge, right?
Just to add upon only on the net worth right now. Majority of our small and medium practitioners, they issue the net worth for the visa purposes or for some tender purposes. Now, what happens is sometimes they say that the client is saying that just by mentioning this valuing my immovable property, my purpose is solved. You just give me the net worth of that. Sometimes it happens. So now, mera kaam ho jayega, you just give it. Now, the practitioners have to be very, very careful. Now, does he want that net worth only of that property? Or for what purpose? So his engagement letter and his report has to be accordingly, point number one. Point number two, when he is valuing it, whether it is at cost or at circle rate or a fair market value, whatever it is, the chartered accountant himself, he cannot value it. If it is not at the cost, but some other value, then it has to be certified through any other registered valuer. And that fact has to be brought in. That fact has to be brought in. Also, many a times, they give the balances of their banks. And what happens that they've got 5 banks, the balances are given for different dates in each bank. the practitioner should take care that the balance sheet should be as on the same date. It is not that one bank statement, the balance you are giving on, say, 1st of July, another you are giving 3rd of July, another you are giving 8th of July, another you are 15th of July. So one has to be very, very careful. It has to be on same date. Any other asset I would talk about which is not there in his books or anywhere else, he has to give proper disclaimers. I would talk because most of these net worth in the SMP areas are given for the purpose of visas and others. So they have jewelries, they have immovable property. The cost is my only, say, 20 lakhs, but my current value is, say, 2 crores, or jewelry, I have got this much. So whatever it is, other than what is there in his documents which are there, which brings it at the historical cost, anything excess, it has to be properly supported. Otherwise, proper disclaimers have to be given. One, the chartered accountant who's issuing certificate has to be very clear that what responsibility he is taking. So accordingly, the things have to be taken. This is very, very important. I'll be telling each and every member out here, because many a times what is happening that for issuing of the certificates, the client comes and the assessee comes and he wants everything and say otherwise I'll get it done from someone else. So all those things, that we have to resist that temptation, and we have to issue the right certificate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments, because very, very relevant and important topic in everyday practice. Padmashri ma'am, next question to you, it would be, there are many clients insist on a language which has been prescribed by the regulators, like, RBI, IRDA, or there could be some tender related specific formats which are being there for that particular agency to whom the certificate is to be issued. So, and these formats are not in line with the guidance note of the institute. So how to address this matter? Can you please throw some light on this?
Sorry, I was on mute. These kind of cases are pretty common, wherein the n number of examples, I think banks have their own formats, insurance companies have their own formats. So more so when you are applying for an RFP or a tender for a client, then they have their own specific format. Also, loan covenants have their own format as to how they have to do. So the guidance note has a specific para, I guess para 81 or 82 in this respect. This says that in case if there is a defined format which has to be certified, you provide the certificate as per this guidance note. So obviously they are going to reject it. Okay. So if you know that you have a rejection over there, or when you face a rejection, then you ensure that all these things that are mentioned in the guidance note or the format of the guidance note, like the illustrative format, if you look at it, has a specific management responsibility para, auditor's responsibility para, the paras that we talked about, reasonable assurance, opinion, conclusion based on reasonable or limited. Then we have a restriction on use para. So all these things. So what you will do is you will prepare something like a letter, and then you put a reference inside the certificate to say that our certificate has to be read in conjunction with so and so letter, and then a cross reference into that letter that our certificate in terms of so and so engagement letter, mandate letter issued has to be read in conjunction with this letter, wide UDIN dated and dated so and so. So that provides a binding requirement that the client has to issue both the documents together. And then from a legal perspective, you have done what is required by the guidance note. So they may not be able to, give you a leeway or give a tweak on the language of the certificate or the statement that you have to certify. But then at the same time, it is necessary to issue a letter or a, many of the firms call it as a covering letter or a letter along with the certificate, annexed to the certificate, something like that, wherein that is again printed on the letterhead. No separate UDIN is generated for that because that is along with this certificate, but a very clear statement on that is mentioned that this has to be read in conjunction with the certificate, and certificate also has that cross-referencing of that letter to say that without that letter, my certificate is incomplete. This is one way of doing it. Second is if they allow, in that cases, if they allow it in the format, then attach the relevant paras into that, modify the relevant paras into it. But I think that is where the issue is, that they are not allowing those amendments, and that's when we have to follow this way of issuing a additional letter or a covering letter. But giving cross reference in both the things is very, very important. Also, some of the departments come up with this to whomsoever it may concern kind of a certificate. That is not at all possible. You have to have a specific addressee. You have to have a specific addressing of the certificate to a certain body, to a certain. So generally, it so happens you need not give it to the external party directly. So you can always address it to the board of directors who have appointed you to issue a certificate. And then you can write in your letter or in the certificate saying that this is for the purpose of onward submission to so and so body. So that is the best practice. You need not keep addressing it to 100 parties and then need not issue, but at the same time issue with a board as the addressee, and specify in the restriction on use para that this is only for this purpose and should not be used for any other purpose. So that restriction on use para, which Pramod sir also mentioned too, is that in the engagement letter as well as in the deliverable, both there has to be a connection saying that this is only for this certificate, for this purpose, this is not to be used for anything. Just pick up a small example. We were talking so much about the network. One network certificate that is taken, which doesn't have a proper restriction on use para, can be used for 10 purposes. So, one hand, you are increasing your risk, and obviously, you are not rewarded for what you are doing. So, if the same network certificate, if there is an additional release that is required, it is a practice by many of the firms to take an additional fees and release it for another purpose. Or if you know that it is going to be there for 2 to 3 purposes, then charge accordingly, as well as manage your risk and see which is more important, that whether you want to give it to that body or not. If it is only for management internal purpose, it's a different issue. If the certificate is going to be used as part of some larger document, just to give an example like a DRHP or something, then your risk parameter is completely different. Maybe you don't want to give an unaudited based certificate if it is going into a public disclosure document. If it is only for the management purpose, if it is only for one bank purpose, that is for the purpose of loan or something. So it all depends on the risk appetite and where and when you want to do. So that restriction on use para and specific usage para is again very important.
Thank you, ma'am. Praveen sir, the next one should be to you. Is there a process whether if the certificate is required to be revised, can we revise it after the issuance?
Okay, so first of all, any certificate which has to be given, it has to be given with a lot of care. And the guidance note very clearly mentions about professional skepticism. So the practitioner would need to plan and perform an engagement with professional skepticism. This is mentioned in paragraph number 34 of the guidance note of 2016. So this is saying that recognizing that circumstances may exist that may cause the subject matter information to be materially misstated. So there may be a possibility which always need to be kept in mind, and professional skepticism is required before you issue any report or the certificate. And then there is a guidance note, separate guidance note on revision of your audit reports. And it says that there can be different reasons. There can be an error, there can be a subsequent development, there can be a change in circumstances, there can be change in interpretations by some judiciary or some case law. There can be a change in the event. So there can be various reasons through which there may be a requirement of change in your certificate. But whatever the new certificate you are giving, you need to mention about the previous certificate and recalling that and mentioning that that is being withdrawn here. Earlier, we used to have a facility where your previous UDIN would also be revoked, But now that since you cannot revoke that after a particular time, I think 2 days or something, now you'll have to mention the reason of revision and the detail of revision in the certificate. Maybe Pramodji can add into this, because this revision is an issue which comes up when there are some sensitivities involved. Either there was an error or there was some judgment happened, so interpretation got changed or something. So the previous UDIN is standing, and the practitioner can give a new certificate mentioning about the previous one. So maybe Pramodji can add to it.
Yes, Pravinji, there is only just one point to add out here. That guidance note which you referred, very, very important for the revision of reports. Actually, that is based upon my 560, SA 560, which allows that in which cases I can revise my report. Now, for a certificate also, we have to take a clue from that. That has the data behind that changed, or was there an error into that? And the provider of that data based upon which I'm issuing the certificate, is there any change? So if that data has changed, or the circumstances or judgment, what Pravinji said, that has to be the base. Based upon that, if there is any material thing which there is a change, then only I can revise my certificate. If the view of other panelists and other members is very open, any views on that? Because this questions come even in the audit report. What happens that certain regulators, they say, you revise your report. Others have also done it. It is not about others have done it. It is whether it is as per as SA 560 read with this guidance note. If it is not covered into that, then I don't think so you can revise a report. So the question comes even for the tax audit reports. Tax audit reports. There sometimes it could be a clerical error or something like that error. But again, for these certificates, it would depend upon facts of the case, that what was the error based upon which the certificate revision is required. And very rightly said about UDIN. And just to inform members, there is a process which is going to be enabled soon, where for even the tax audit or the certificate, tax audit is most probably, or any other certificate, where if you are revising the earlier one, then the reference to that would be interlinked. So that thing is being developed by the institute for the information for all the participants out there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, sir, I think one of the practices that I have seen that it exists into, I think I was referring to some of the documents issued at one of the places. I think what you are mentioning, that if you want to revise now, because UDIN cannot be revoked after the limited time. So if at all that format or something is not agreeable, then they say this is in superseding. They put a note saying that this is in supersession of the UDIN generated so and so. That is one practice that I have seen.
But that may not be appropriate. That is not appropriate.
Yeah, because it is not revoked, then I think it will also exist and this will also exist is the problem that it will be.
Now, what Provisional said is quite seems to be appropriate, that you refer the earlier one, the earlier UDIN one also, that due to this reason that certificate is being revised.
Yes, that's what. This is in superstition of that UDIN requirement due to these changes, like that. But still there is a problem that exists because UDIN is not revoked, so both UDIN exist.
Take fine.
And so somebody may misuse it, which is a possibility which is there always.
Yeah.
Okay. Padmashri ma'am, again, a very, very common question in the terms of small practitioners. People come to you with, certify my bank book, certify my birth certificate, certify my ITR, just some papers which they need to certify. So how should this be addressed to? And, again, it could be then, can we certify the turnover as per the ITR, or any which is a KYC certificate where the opening of the bank account. See, because bankers insist that, get these certified.
Yeah.
So how this should be addressed? Because very, very common question which people face.
Yeah. So, if I have to go back to the time when I started my articleship, maybe, or some time ago, that was a normal thing to say a certified true copy of documents. That practice existed, whether you like it or not, that practice existed, and I'm not sure, but it does exist now also. With all due regard, it does exist now also. So if you look at one of the FAQs, so on UDIN there is a set of FAQs that initially that came some 20-25 FAQs, and then it kept getting added. I think in the third or the fourth edition, there was one UDIN specifically on true copy certification by the chartered accountants. Okay, and it very much clearly it said that this true copy identification of this documents is not. So you are not empowered to do those things. If at all, I have to look at the ITR. If at all, I have to look at the balance sheet or something. One, when I have done the audit, I can issue an audit report. If at all, I have to say that, okay, this is another copy on the basis of which I have verified. Then issue a report on it, a small report on it in the form of a certification in accordance with this guidance note, and then only that report can be issued. Something like stamping it and saying certified true copy is quite long gone by as of now. And this is something that, it's not the problem with us. I would say every other person or every other third person, as you rightly mentioned, that the bankers ask for it, someone else asks for it. Every now and then go and get it certified by the CA, as if you're sitting with a stamp to just certify and give it back to them, which is not the right, I would say, image set for anyone who will be a practicing CA. So I think we have to be careful, and more so, we have to be more aware of these FAQs and these things, because these are the things that will get us into trouble as well. These are things that are not supposed to be done. Tomorrow there is a default in that loan, for example, for opening a bank account or for a something that you are taking it up, and then tomorrow there is a default, then it comes back to who certified it. And it is a boomerang that comes back, and it is a issue, then it happens, and then obviously these are the clear guidances that have been issued, which actually says that you are not supposed to do it. I think Pramod sir, you can add further. Maybe this is one of the topics that we discussed earlier also in another forum.
Yes, Padma, actually, certified true copy cannot be done by a chartered accountant. We are not notaries. We are not notaries that I have seen this is a copy of that. No, not allowed. Not allowed. Chartered accountants, they have to issue a report. Now, taking an example, say ITR. So normally we should not do, but suppose a banker insists, then what can we certify? The issue is certify what? The main thing. The most what we can certify out here is that in our report, when we say what is attached is the ITR acknowledgement, which is downloaded from this income set website of this PAN on this date. This is that download copy. So certifying it that it is downloaded from the income tax website on this date at this time from this ID. So that is the certification. So similarly, if I talk about any such certification, we can never issue a certified true copy. So we have to come to a point that what am I certifying? Suppose someone says financial statements certify. What I have to certify into that? They're already audited. It contains a UDIN. So what should I certify? Certified true copy. It is not allowed. So we actually, in such cases, first of all, we have to ask them, what do you want us to certify? They say certify. Ask the question 10 times. Certify what? Certify is basically an adjective. Give the noun. What certification do you want? Certify itself is nothing. So what do you want? This balance sheet is audited by whom? Or this ITR is filed by whom? This is downloaded. What do you want? So members all have to be very, very clear and restrict their responsibility and have that engagement letter accordingly. Engagement letter, the documentation, the MRL, that restricting what is the required to be certified. Certify itself is nothing. What is required to be certified, we have to crystallize into that, the whole profession. That is the most important. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod sir. And Praveen sir, the next question is related to the. Should I take a break and put it to Padmashri ma'am if you're having a tea and not disturb you?
No, it is fine. I'm keep on having that.
Okay.
He can speak while sipping tea.
Thank you. What are the aspects which should be considered whereby nowadays whenever there is a CSR fund being given to a trust, the trust has to in turn give utilization certificate to the donors. So what should be the care where this CA should take in certifying these utilization or consumption certificates for the funds given to a trust?
So basically, what we discussed earlier, the same applies here also. Agree on the terms of engagement, understand if there is a scope limitation, take those representation and collect audit evidence as much as you can. Remember SA 500, SA 505, SA 330, all these standards, they ask you to collect evidence. So whatever you are certifying or whatever certificate or the report you are issuing, you need to ensure whether, if you are saying that this is in compliance with section this of the Companies Act, then you have to ensure that you have carried out those procedures and you are getting those evidence which will convince you as practitioners that these compliances have been done. So even for trust or CSR matter also similar kind of conditions will apply. You need to have those written engagement letters, representation letters, documentary evidence, and then third party evidence, independent evidence, confirmations, whatever is required, you need to have all that in file.
Thank you, sir. Padmashri ma'am, something, the trend which
Sir, here, just one point, just to add, Praveen sir. This CSI utilization certificate, this format also has been issued by the CSR committee earlier in the CSR accounting, which is available from the ICI. Just for the information for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Padmashri ma'am, now as the trend, CA, something very, the recent trend, there has been a recent movie made by a CA, well done CA Saab. So the question is related to film industry. Now, whether a CA can certify the budget of a film with a breakup of various heads required for the purpose of availing subsidy based on the budget which is prepared by the filmmaker and on his past experience and management estimates. And the producer has certified the budget, but the breakup is not approved. So how would this certification be there in terms of SRE 3400?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll again, take a moment to just say, whenever we say that there has to be a certification, okay, I always ask that there is nothing open-ended called certification. Let us look at what is the standard that will be applicable. So there is a set of standard that is there for audit. There is there for general purpose financial statement audit. Then there is a special purpose framework. Then there is a compilation. Then there is a SRE 3400, which is more of a prospective financial information, and so on and so forth. So certifying the unaudited financial statement is not possible at all. At the same time, prospective financial information. So SRE 3400 actually deals with prospective financial information and what is it that you will do. So this is per se not a certificate, but however, this says that the basis of preparation, basically the 3400 standard revolves around how is the preparation of the prospective financial information done, what are the assumptions taken, whether it is appropriate, inappropriate, and how to evaluate those, how to review those. So connecting it with the historical financial statements, the projections that have been made, the overall things that have been built, whether these things are appropriate and whether these things actually are standing in a good standing. And then all the assumptions that has been done by the management and whatever has been evaluated also has to be very clearly disclosed. And if the information actually is not appropriate, or if the information is not something that can be supported by any kind of historical data, precedence, or the basis, then that is something that actually makes this inappropriate reporting. So the report under SRE 3400, when you see, it is actually not in the form of an audit report, and it doesn't give you open opinion perspective. But then it says that how did you evaluate the data? What did you do with the data? Whether the data is appropriate and whether the prospective financial information is fine. In the given example, I think the case is quite interesting in terms of budget of the film. And this is similar to all the project financing, project financing kind of a situation that everyone does. And project financing is something that is day in and day out. Many of the practitioners are into, and they are certifying. So one request over here that all those who are into this project finance really look at 3400 and follow that standard thoroughly, so that we are aligned to what is required to be given, what are the assumptions that are made. Now, in case of this, the overall film budget and the producer has accepted this and things like that. So I think these have those elements, but then what is necessary over here to look at it is the assumptions that they have made and what is their prior information that they have, and how much that the practitioner can validate those assumptions and look at those assumptions in reality based on the prospective financial information standard. If that is not possible, I think it would be a bad idea to go for the reporting on such matters.
Thank you. I think we had discussed last time also. It is something similar to certifying projections, which is very, very dangerous. So
dangerous, yeah.
So Praveen sir, next question would be, Vishal sir just mentioned, there are some certificates which are compulsorily required to be issued by the statutory auditor. I would put a reverse question to you, Praveen sir. What type of certificates which should not be issued by a statutory auditor of a company? And can a chartered accountant issue a certificate without taking NOC from the stat auditor? Or is there any time limit or tenure for which a company can appoint a CA for issuing certificates?
So, type of certificates that cannot be issued by statutory auditor. I mean, the certificates which are not independent in nature. So that means when you are doing management services, if that certificate is of that kind, which is in the nature of management services, those kind of service cannot be given. If I think of some instances or some example, so if there is a company which has a statutory auditor, and if there are some discussion going on and there is a valuation required for the purpose of management, then probably statutory auditor is not the right person to give that certificate, because tomorrow the same person is going to come and do the statutory auditor as statutory auditor and will review those evaluation certificates. So you cannot become a maker and a checker, at your own. This is just an example. There can be various other examples. You cannot be on the management side. You have to remain an independent because you are the statutory auditor. So when a certificate is required and the company approaches the other CA for giving a certificate, and I don't think there is any NOC required, because when this engagement is for one purpose only, engagement is for the purpose of giving that particular certificate. The moment that certificate is given, that engagement is over. NOC is required from the statutory auditor from a different perspective altogether, because they have to give opinion on the financial statements, and it is required that the new statutory auditor who will be appointed will have to go to the previous auditor and take no objection certificate and will communicate with the previous auditor. But in case of certificates, that there is no such requirement to take NOC from the previous person who has given the certificate of any kind. But remember, when you are doing tax audit or when you are doing statutory audit, you have to go to the previous auditors. Appointing a CA for how much tenure? I mean, as I had mentioned, that each certificate or report is an independent engagement for which the company can appoint an auditor or a practitioner. So there may be a situation that you can have an engagement letter for the whole year, and there are a lot of there is a frequency of a lot of certificates are being issued by the management. That is possible that you can have one engagement letter for all the certificate, but it's not like the tenure based engagement is not there. It is the engagement which is based on that particular issue of the certificate. So the moment you provide that certificate, your engagement is over in case of individual certificate. This is, I think,
Thank you, sir.
that answers the question.
Padmashri ma'am, there are also requirements whereby the production capacity or the installed capacity is required to be certified. So can an auditor issue a certificate attesting the, maybe the addition of the installed capacity or augmentation or the utilization of some, or the present capacity which is there? How could this be addressed with? Can we issue such certificate in the framework of the guidance note?
Yeah, so there is always this one thing that you are a CS, so you can know everything, but it is not necessary that I know everything to be as straight and simple as that. One thing I think Praveen sir mentioned is that you can take help of some of the experts, okay, at times. But to what extent and for what matters you are taking is very important. So if it is for valuation of an immovable property to a certain extent and then looking at their assumptions and looking at the historical cost, doing additional work, then that is something that you can do, because ultimately, as he rightly pointed out, and then I think 2-3 other discussions also, what we spoke about is whatever you do, ultimately you are the one who are certifying, so you are responsible. So in case of this, increase in production capacity, installed capacity, all these things, for example, is very, very technical. And there will be, another set of professionals in the market who are known as chartered engineers, certified valuers, certified engineers. These are the other, on the production side, there are engineers who will certify these things. Now, for example, if I am doing audit of just to give an example, audit of a diamond company. How do I do the audit of a diamond company? He is just for the purposes of valuation. Say, for example, there is a glass in between, and then you are shown this is a 1 carat diamond, this is a 2 carat diamond, this is a 0.5, this is a 0.2. I am just looking at it. I am not even sure of whether it is a diamond or a glass. So that is where an expert intervention can be taken, wherein he is an independent expert. He looks at those things, but then he derives it like what are the carats of the diamond, then I derive it the value based on valuation and other assumptions. That's one side of it. But in this case, we are directly talking about production capacity, installing capacity. I think I'm not the expert in this case, and then we have to sometimes, as I said, we can't know everything, and then we have to say that this is not my field of expertise and this is not what I have as a competence in terms of giving this certification, and then I would not be able to give that. Another important thing is that in the guidance note on certificates, one of the paras in terms of client acceptance and the objectivity para, it very clearly says that please look at whether you have the adequate competency, capability, and resources. I think sometimes we kind of assume that I know everything. That is where we have this thing that we can certify technical matters also. I don't know what is the horsepower of that machine. I don't know what is its capacity, whether it is capable of producing 100 units per minute or 200 units per minute. All these are technical matters. So I think largely these kind of matters we should be able to exclude ourselves from getting into.
Agreed. Thank you, ma'am. Praveen sir, again, something which Padmashri madam has already spoken about it, but there is a specific question about what is the process for certification of project report, CMA data, projected financial statements used for the appraisal of cash credit by the bankers?
So as we had a lot of discussion about 3400, we need to be extremely careful. The management assumptions and those assumptions need to be taken care of, to be carefully looked at. And whatever information is coming, whether there is a consistent historical information is available to support that. So we need to be very, very careful and using SA 3400. I would recommend that, have a look at this SA 3400 when you are examining any prospective financial information, any project reports you are looking at. This can be prepared by the management, can be prepared by other professionals. But if I go back to my previous statement that if you are giving a certificate or if you are giving a report or an opinion, the sole responsibility of that opinion is yours. Keep that in mind. You cannot say that because this person has said or that person. You have to get a comfort yourself and then you can give your opinion.
Thank you, sir. Padmashri ma'am, again, a very common example, there is a fire at the client's place and some goods have been destroyed. Now, the books of accounts are not yet prepared. The client provides you with the estimated value of the destroyed stock, and the insurance company is asking for a certificate from the CA for the value of the goods destroyed. How should this be approached?
Yeah, again, I go back to the same question. We could have maybe we could have certified something that is existing. What is not existing, I don't know. So the one of the methods or the audit procedures which I can think of here is what is existing as of now versus what was existing as on that day based on the books of account is something that you can derive as a balancing figure at the most and not beyond. You cannot actually accurately say, okay, goods of this much value has been destroyed or something like that. Whereas you can very much say that as per books of account, if this was something that was existing in the books of account and as per physical verification, whatever was the nearest date, then you will have to do a lot of rollback, roll forward procedures to come to that. Rollback, roll forward procedures include, inventory that is sold plus inventory that is purchased during that period to arrive. Basically, if I have to take a simplistic example, the goods are destroyed by fire on say 15th of January. Then someone has done the physical verification of inventory on say 31st of December. So between 31st of December to 15th of January, what has been bought, what has been sold, that will give me a book mention, and which is near to proximity of the physical existence of the goods. And then if there is a fire on 15th of Jan, then get another physical verification done after that. Whatever is left and whatever is their realizable value, you can certify both those values that this is what was existing and this is what was not existing. I would say ideally in this situation, certification is not something that's very much suitable. Rather, you can do something like a AUP SRS 4400, which is a agreed upon procedure that you will only look at the physical verification and find out like what is existing as on that day and do a fact finding exercise. So I think that is more suitable in the given case, in my view. This is where I was coming to, and this is where we were discussing earlier, is that I think we as a profession has become kind of a balancing figure at time, or a punch bag, if I have to say, for the lack of words. Sorry. Because every second person wants a certificate from a CA for anything that has happened. So 274 1G earlier time, which is 162 subsection 4 certification, that the directors are not disqualified. Give a certification by a CA. How? So installation capacity, augmentation capacity, as you rightly mentioned, give a certificate by CA. How? So these are things that actually raise the question on how is a CA supposed to know these things also. And then if to actually protect the client's interest, or if out of goodwill, if it is done, then obviously if the information anywhere anything is not right, then that certificate is put across, and that is when the person who has done the certification is on trouble. Say for example, you are certifying as per 164.2 that director is of sound mind. How? Those are questions, actually you have to rethink as to, am I supposed to do this? So I think that is when we have to refrain also.
I have another perspective to the whole thing. I think this demonstrates the confidence of society in this community of chartered accountants. Because they do not believe the client. Client is self-certifying. They do not professional giving. They say that, okay, go to a chartered accountant and take a certificate, because they say, okay, these are the people to whom I can trust. I think Vishal Bhai and Pramod Bhai will agree with me that at least this demonstrate the confidence of society in this profession, right? So the other day we were having a debate because when prospectus is coming, then future-oriented information is being. So there was a demand that okay, those can also be certified by the CAs. So I mean, of course, we have our own limitations, but look at the mindset of the society that anything which I'm not getting comfortable with, go to these people who are, who have done such a difficult course and the results are very, very small. And these people, they read the books, go to them, get their signatures. We do not know what they will do, but they will be very careful and they will check everything and then they will give you the certificate. And that's why there's a limelight on our profession. I look at it from that perspective also.
Thank you, Praveen sir, for giving a very positive approach to the situation. But if we don't do what is expected and fault and don't follow the guidance note, just see what the outcome could be. You could be shunned away very, very easily.
These are the people you can catch hold of. Huh?
Yeah.
It's the other way around also that is looked into. So why I should take the responsibility, put it on someone else's shoulder, because they're ready to take it. Why not? Make them the scapegoat. Maybe I'm anyways safe. So he has certified it. Go catch hold of him.
Correct.
So anyways, this is a learning session which we are having for members. So, we follow the guidance note and just don't certify whatever is expected of us. And, the reputation can be kept intact to the extent possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Praveen sir, now something related to the UDIN. While generating UDIN for certificates, how does one determine the extent of information that should be entered on the portal? Is it necessary to include the complete contents of the certificate, including disclaimers and scope limitations? For instance, while certifying turnover for a tender, should product-wise turnover be entered? Further, is it mandatory to state on the UDIN portal that the certificate is being issued on the books of accounts, basis of the books of accounts, and that no physical verification was conducted? Or would it sufficient to provide simply mention that the certificate pertains to turnover certification for tender purposes? Or, is the UDIN required to be generated for no dues certificate, where the figures of mandatory field will be 0 because there is no dues, 0. So how would one assess the level of detail that is the appropriate to disclose in the UDIN? Again, the UDIN portal has been revised recently for audit reports where the type of opinion is to be required. But in certification, this has not come yet. So Vishal sir can throw some light, something coming in the offing now.
Yeah, my view is very simple. UDIN, whatever information you are putting in there, basically it is a utility that tomorrow any user can go look at the utility and confirm whether this certificate relates to this particular aspect or not. That's a very limited purpose for which, you have to fill in the information. And there are various ways in which this utility, the content of the utilities are being used. But objective is basically to be able to relate that, okay, this certificate was issued by me and it was issued for this particular purpose. And there are some details which are there. So I think that purpose is limited. We should, and it's ancillary. The main purpose is to issue certificate. UDIN is basically to get connection and to identify. And whether there is any other amendment is in the offering or not, that Vishal Bhai can always mention.
That would become again a forward-looking statement, which I think right now we all have discussed we should not have.
So we are not asking certify.
No, there are a lot of developments happening on the UDIN side. So yes.
Yes, there's always improvement. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
No, Vishal bhai, here, just what Praveen bhai also said, that for UDIN, for the assurance, already that fields have been enabled, that whether the report which your auditor is issuing is a qualified one, disclaimer one, or adverse one, or emphasis one matter, all those have been developed. Now, UDIN initially very rightly said was basic for the purpose that it has been, the assurance work has been done by a chartered accountant, but slowly and gradually it is evolving, I would say it is evolving, and further many datas are being collected to that, so that we can collate all those and represent wherever required. So here again, when a certificate is being issued, the certificate, the UDIN has to be generated accordingly, because sometimes we tell to the government, okay, members have generated this much number of certificates under this head and this head, so that data is available on that UDIN.
Thank you, sir. Padmashri ma'am, in case of a turnover certificates, which are very much seeked for different purposes, supposedly the certifying that turnover for multiple tender submission, can there be a single certificate which could be issued, separate certificates for each separate person with a distinct UDIN?
Yeah, I think we discussed in connection with this. I think similar question we discussed. There's
Yeah, it is a
nothing
little
called as,
simpler one.
yeah, there's nothing called as to whomsoever it may concern, and it will become a pamphlet, and I'll stand at the railway station and I can, distribute it. It's very, very specific. It is for what purpose, why it is being done, what is the duration of it. So restriction on use para basically, which is there in the illustrative also, is very important. So everything has to have one purpose. And if it is a tender, that tender may be very specific, saying that you need a certification wherein the net worth is more than 500 crore. Something else may say that your turnover may be more than something. So there may be a different requirement for each tender, and also this is for a limited period and only for that specific tender. It cannot be a general one wherein you will just issue one, like a general purpose financial statement where you are issuing, which can be used by multiple stakeholders. So there is no actually report which is called as a general purpose certificate. So even if we read the heading of the guidance note, very specific guidance note on certificates and reports for special purposes. It doesn't say for general purposes. So I think it is very, very niche, very, very specific, and has to be for each of the requirement, because the requirement may change, the addressee or the party may change to whom we are giving, the purposes may change, the risk may vary. From a firm perspective, the risk at each of the certificate is very different. That is what I mentioned in the earlier example. If you are doing a certification, issuing it to the management, internal management, the risk level is different, because you know that they are going to look at their net worth for some reason. If the same net worth is going to an outside party, it is different. If it is going to a private, RFP person, it is different. The risk profile when it is going to a government tender is completely different. If it is going as part of a DRHP, it is too much different. So I think from a risk perspective, how much risk appetite do we have? We teach risk and internal control to the whole world, in the sense we make the frameworks, we prepare the frameworks, we implement them, and we talk about the risk and everything. I think somewhere it is lacking in each of our own practices, that we have to ensure that we inculcate these practices very appropriately, and each one has to have a separate distinct UDIN with a restriction on use para, in my view.
Thank you, ma'am. Praveen sir, there is also many times request that the bank asked a certificate stating there are no outstanding dues such as income tax, GST, PAF, gratuity, etc. In case where the entity is not even registered under PF, how can a chartered accountant certify the non-existence of such dues?
So basically, go back to paragraph 4, which we were discussing. Chartered accountant cannot give absolute assurance, should not give absolute assurance. They can give, in such cases, the limited assurance that nothing has come to our attention after doing those audit procedures. So I think one should be careful the wordings which are being used. And Madam Padam Shri also said that, the specific purpose for which this certificate is given, person to which this certificate is given. So one need to be extremely careful. And the language which is being used need to be either a reasonable assurance or a limited assurance based on the audit procedures which were carried out.
Thank you, sir. Padmashri ma'am, in terms of, again, some questions are a little bit repeated, but a little twist in the question, which is already being covered. Regarding future related matters, how can a chartered accountant certify future related matters in terms of a projected procurement of material for a specific product, or stating that the client will use only Make in India products in the contract, again, which is more of government related work which is there. The agencies ask that you certify these, something which the client would do in future.
I think, as we said, we are first of all saying that, futuristic financial projections itself are quite risky, and then those are governed by 3400, and we have to take all precautions over there. Now, this is with respect to manufacturing process, so I don't even know how does the manufacturing happen. So, if there is a mobile mobile phone that has to be manufactured, there are hundreds of components within that. Now, asking someone that you will use everything that will be Make in India within that, or even you will go to the 80% Make in India and 20% you will take from outside. The product list or the product engineer will give me, say, for example, a 10-page list saying that this is my procurement detail for manufacturing one mobile. For example, what are the products? It may be everything starting from a chip to a Teflon to a plastic to a metal body, whatever under the sun. I don't even know, conductor, semiconductor, whatever that is there. And then he says, okay, this I am procuring from this places, and this I am procuring from this place. Okay. So now, again, I have the same question, whether am I competent to do that? It is a list that is given by someone. I have seen that list, and I have to just believe that this guy, what he is doing is right. That's it. There is nothing further that I can do over it. And then on the basis of that representation, I am going to actually certify, which again seems quite inappropriate. If it is already a transaction that has happened, then we can check the books of accounts that whether these products have come from here, these products have not come from here. If it is prospective, there is no way that I can actually go out and say that, you will use 85% indigenous products, you will use 15% from outside. What if he doesn't get one product and then he buys from a foreign market due to some shortage or something? He doesn't want to, but then he has to because of the product related, questions. Then what is the validity of my certificate? I think not possible much.
Fully agree, sir, ma'am. And again, we don't know the origin. We may be buying from a local market, but it could be of some imported origin. So really difficult to track that.
Yeah, exactly.
Praveen sir, again, in relation to some future related matters, there are some banks seek some certificate that the unsecured loan will not be repaid without the bank's permission. The quasi equity, which they call it, promoters' money or friends and relatives' money. So how should this be addressed?
So I think both Pramod Bhai and Vishal Bhai are there, and this is a live webinar. Please pardon me for being a little aggressive on this. This is a stupid ask from a chartered accountant. How can I say that this person will not use money like this? Will. Has not used is a separate issue. Will. How can I say? How can you go to a chartered accountant and say that please write on a piece of paper that I will not do? How can I take a guarantee of this year? It is impossible. I think no one should be giving that kind of certificate at all. How can you say that promoter will use this money for this purpose or that purpose? We can give, that this is what management is saying. This is what management wants to do. But how can I take a guarantee of a promoter when who is taking a loan from the bank here? This is stupid question. I'm sorry for being aggressive, but sometimes it gets onto your heart.
Sir, fully agree.
Like that.
It is more of creating awareness that members should not issue such certificate, but bankers do insist, and thus this question has come up here. So we should, as a member, be able to resist such request and deny it. So that is what.
Chintan sir, the only thing is, they should first ask this in writing. That a third person, they want a certificate from a third person, that one from a chartered accountant, that the third person would do something and CA should certify that. Okay, just give us a copy, a letter, so that we can share it with RBI that such certificates are being asked from the bankers. I have totally agree with Praveen bhai. They have to be very clear. जिसको देना है, जिसको use करना है, he should certify what he wants to do or not do. How can I certify that what he will do?
Definitely, sir. Padmashi ma'am, again, very question is getting repeated. So similarly, again, it was about repaying of the promoter.
नहीं, Chintan ji, इसमें एक on a lighter side, at the most, what a CA can certify, that the promoter has told me that he will spend. He take an MRL from him, and that he has told me that he will spend. If banker is okay with that, okay.
Again, the borrowed funds will be utilized for the intended purpose and will not be used for another purpose. Something very similar to what Praveen sir has already answered. So I think it's a no-brainer.
All these wills and shells we have to keep aside. If it is already done and if there is evidence to verify, then only we should get into. Otherwise, all this will and should, because you yourself don't know what you are going to do tomorrow basically, and then you are asking that what someone else will do. And money is such a fungible asset that once it goes into the business, once there is a requirement, anything can happen. How will I undertake on behalf of someone else? As Pramod sir also rightly said that all these wills and shalls have to be kept at bay.
Perfect. Praveen sir, what documentation should be maintained while issuing certificates? What tools or checklists should firms use to ensure consistency, quality, and peer review readiness for issued certificate? Which Vishal bhai has already mentioned, the checklist which is being under consideration and preparation. But again, till that comes out under the domain and the issued by the ICI, you can give some tips, sir.
Yeah, actually, we have discussed that all those documents, one is engagement letter, the evidence, and the management representation letter. So all these documents have to be kept in file, and it is not for peer review readiness. Please correct that, because peer review is a process of the institute in which someone goes and sees whether the quality is being properly maintained, and it's a review by a peer, by a person who is of the same profession. They'll come and advise, and in case there is any shortcoming, that can be improved. Basically, all these documents which are being kept, they are ultimately, in case a matter goes to the court of law, or it goes to the disciplinary committee, or it goes to any regulator, or any dispute happens, the auditor should have all these papers in the file, whether electronic or whether in paper file, so that tomorrow it can be demonstrated that whatever report or the certificate was issued, it was based on these documentation, or based on these evidences, based on all these scopes which were given. So basically, ultimately, it is to be kept in a manner so that it can be produced in the court of law in case the matter goes to that extent. So it's not only for peer review preparation. Peer review is just a process to improve the quality and to ensure that you are being updated, and your firm is ensuring the standard on quality controls are being maintained. So this is the purpose of maintaining the file for each certificate. It is for a later purpose. If some regulator or some matter goes into the court of law, then these can be produced. Yeah.
The one thing I would like to add here is that, it's always that what work I have done and what is the quality that I have to maintain. It is a cross check for the to ensure that preparer, reviewer, or the maker checker concept, and also to ensure that whatever I'm doing is in the right perspective. So maybe I'm doing a certification as per some circular of some law or regulation, who has done the work, what are my records. So I think there the main distinction is that till the time I think that I'm doing it for someone else, it will never be voluntary and it will never be done in time. Only and only if I'm thinking that this is for me and I have to do this and this is what I am supposed to look into, I will do that on time. So whenever someone comes, then I will do, or whenever someone comes, I will see that time. I think that kind of the very precinct of the documentation is largely like when someone comes, what should I do? But first you do it for yourself, so that if you are satisfied, then you will be able to satisfy anyone else. If you are not satisfied, maybe you'll not be able to satisfy anyone.
Thank you. Praveen sir had some important engagement and he had requested to leave. We have 2 more questions with the permission of the convener. We can continue that and Praveen sir may leave if he wants to. So, sir, as you wish.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pramod bhai and Vishal bhai. Look forward.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your time and your sharing of knowledge and your, I would say, heart out on the last question. Thank you. Thanks for that, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen sir.
Thank you.
Padmashri ma'am, there are 2 more questions we can just address and have.
Sure.
Sure. Ma'am, while issuing certificate for stock statements, can it be mentioned that the stock has not been counted physically, and can only the stock statement duly stamped and signed by the member be submitted to the bankers or the intended addressees without a complete report as per the guidance note?
Yeah, so I think again, this we said that whenever we are doing any kind of report, anything whatsoever that we are doing, under which standard we are doing and why that we are doing. So any statement that comes out as a printout or something that someone else has prepared, there is nothing or no obligation or there is nothing that we should do that, okay, stamp and sign and this is fine. So that that has to be completely, that practice has to be completely going out. What we are supposed to do is that if the stocks are as per books, if there is reconciliation between the books and the physical verification, then we can say that what is the underlying, what is it that is that we are certifying. I think few of the things that we already discussed, always and always, when we are saying we want to issue a certificate of what, on what, and what have I done? These 3 questions are very, very important and they take center stage. When we ask these questions, that is when we realize, I think it has to be compared with something and then say, okay, this is on the basis of this that I am doing, or I have done these things and this is right and that is what I am doing. So in the given case, I think the stock is not verified. So there is only books, stock as per books. There is no stock physically verified. Then what am I certifying? That the stock as per books is this much. I don't think that would be adequate in any point in time. And then if we want to do that, then also give all the disclaimers and then that would be a qualified conclusion or a qualified opinion, basically. Because you don't know the existence. So when we talk about stock, when we talk about the fixed assets or the PPE, one thing that is, one assertion that will always hit is existence. If you are not confirmed about the existence of the matter, then what is it that you are certifying is the main thing. That this is what is shown in the books. So it is a when we do an entry, there is always a debit and a credit. So 2 legs of the entry, as we call it. So you are only looking at one leg and you do not know the other leg of it, whether that even exists or not. Because if the stock does not exist, then obviously there will be a problem that will come across.
No, अच्छा विशाल जी आप कुछ कह रहे हैं, बोलिए प्लीज. नहीं, I just wanted to add, Padma ji, that there is nothing like on a stock statement you put signature stamp UDIN.
Exactly.
So what are you certifying? Right is that? What are you certifying? So today I am the bank manager. I'll feel that today it is as per book. The stock is as per books. Tomorrow I'll feel the stock is as per physical.
Exactly.
Next day I'll feel the stock valuation is at cost. Next day I'll feel it is at market price. Next day I'll feel it is at NRV. So any day what I feel, the chartered accountant said everything is correct. Whatever you feel, that is correct.
Even the quantities.
Even quantities, everything. So each day he feels different. Each moment he feels different. He feels that it is different. That is correct. So mere signature stamp, you didn't know. We have discussed all these 2 days webinars. These 2 very important sessions. That mere signature stamp, you didn't know where. It has to be with a report with a certificate of what are you certifying. What are you certifying? It is the crux.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. One last one before we conclude the session. There are several instances where, the HO circulars of the bank don't want any certificate from this chartered accountant, but the bank branches insist on obtaining such certificates. In such cases, are we required to request and verify the relevant circular before issuing such certificate?
Yeah, so as I mentioned just in the previous question, whenever someone asks you to certify anything, always ask this question as to what am I doing, why am I doing, how am I doing, and what is it that I'm comparing with, or what is it that what is the underlying on which I'm sending the report. So what am I doing is certification. How am I doing? Maybe I'm verifying those particulars. Where is it required is the next question that is more important. If it is not required anything anywhere, so I think it's not necessary to issue any certificate. So one of the things that you must have seen, some of the firms take a very strict stand that if I'm not the statutory auditor, or even if I am the statutory auditor, and if it is not required by law to issue a certificate, I will never issue a certificate. If it is only required by law, say for example, I am auditing an insurance company, then insurance or IRDA requires that certificate, I will issue that. Other than that, I will not issue any certificate. This is the extreme stand also that is that you can see in the market, that some of the firms have taken that extreme stand. And another is like, if I'm not the statutory auditor, I don't know who is the company, I don't know much in detail about the company. A person walks in one time, he wants a certificate from me, and then I don't know much about that company, no internal controls, who is the governance, nothing. One question that we have to ask in these cases also is that why your statutory auditor is not certifying. Then they will give you an answer that he's not ready to do it because the risk is too high. And then I'm happy to take it. Why? If he, being the statutory auditor, feels that the risk is too high, why am as a third practitioner, third person practitioner, I'm happy to do that. I should not be. That is one side of looking at it. And then whenever we are saying like, why is this required? That is the most important question. There has to be a request. There has to be underlying for it. In any case, whether it is a branch, so branch is actually taking it for their safety. And what is their safety? As we discussed, it is my responsibility. Put it on someone else's shoulder. That in case something goes wrong, he is the one who certified. So I think these kind of situations have to be dealt with very carefully, and then we have to refrain from doing it. And another important thing I would always, in the previous session also I mentioned that today I think, since if I am refusing, someone else is giving, unless that is curtailed, or that is not happening, that everyone is asking the same question as to why is it being done, where is it being done, is it necessary to be submitted, I think then we will come on the same page. Otherwise, if say for example I keep refusing and someone else keeps giving the certificate, then the situation will remain status quo.
Thank you, ma'am, for this insightful thing, and also Praveen sir in absentia for giving an insightful session. And really, the crux is follow the guidance note in letter and spirit. And that is what is required to be done by not one, two, but all the members of our fraternity. That will create a great, robust credibility to the profession. Vishal sir, over to you. And
Absolutely. Closing remarks, sir.
Sir, closing to or starting दोनों ही आपका है sir. You have to, sir. Conclude.
No. So I would just like to thank the panelists, first of all, Padma Shri ji and Parveen Kumar ji in absentia, for sparing their time, 2 days of detailed deliberation. My special thanks to Chintan Bhai for excellently moderating the session. And I understand, Chintan Bhai, last time you mentioned that this was your first appearance, I would say, on a webinar. So compliments. You've got an AIR. Since the CA results are just out, I thought I'll use that terminology. And special thanks to Nidhi Madam and the entire CAQD team who has been working very hard, getting all the feedback, all the questions from the participants, compiling them to ensure that all the questions of the participants are deliberated. And special thanks to Pramod Bhai, our leader, guru, I would say my mentor, who himself takes a lot of pains visiting various branches and giving lectures on the guidance note of certificates and all. And I remember my first interaction was with him when he came to Vadodara in a national conference and made a presentation on this very topic. And I think we've come a long way, sir, from that day till today in ensuring that we create awareness amongst the fraternity. And last but not the least, to all the participants who have joined in large numbers in both the webinars, the one that was held on 3rd of June and the one which is held today also. So thanks, and please do share with us. We do a lot of activities, a lot of handholding for the professional brothers and sisters. Please do visit the CAQD webpage of the ICI, where we have a lot of tools, a lot of checklists, a lot of publications which are there, which would help you in your day-to-day practice. There are more that are coming up. And please do feel free to write to us for any topic which you feel might need the consideration, and we would be more than happy to have a quality cafe session on that. So thank you very much, and wish everybody a very happy evening. Thank you once and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Chintan
Thank
ji.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, yes.